Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am Naomi Saif. Today I wanted to talk about living with, combating, struggling with fear, anxiety, stress, all that in general. So, of course, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist or an expert in any sense of the word, but I will say that while I am not, you are. You are an expert in you. And so if you feel like you have been dealing with or battling, struggling with anxiety, fear, things of that nature, then you're right. Nobody can tell you otherwise. So I just wanted to share 5 points that kind of have helped me with anxiety. Now, alhamdulillah, my anxiety is not to the level of where it messes with the quality of my life, and so alhamdulillah, what I have to share is from a point of someone that has dealt with just a very mild sense of it. So, if your case is more intense than mine, then, if inshallah, if there's anything that I can say that can help you, alhamdulillah. And if not, and you have some things that you can share, then by all means, please leave them in the comments below. So, because I'm just wanting to share, and I'm also wanting for you to share as well. So, like I said, what has helped me with anxiety is these 5 points. The first one is to identify what it is that I'm fearing, because and finding the root of everything, because it's like fear is, by definition, it is the belief of the danger, is belief of danger. Any form of harm is fear. And then what fear does, fear sends a message that there is a danger. And the danger doesn't have to be physical harm. It can be disappointment. It can be whatever your fears are. So you fear something, and so then that fear, it causes you to stress, and that is pressure. It causes tension, and it causes stress. So it's kind of like, fear kind of tells you to run into the car, and then stress tells you to put your foot on the gas, and then anxiety is a reaction of that stress, and that's the revving up, the airplane. I'll wait till it passes. But what happens when you're in a car and it's parked and you're just putting your foot in the gas, but you're not going anywhere? What happens is that you can damage your engine, you can flood your engine. And so with us as well, we get revved up and we're not even going anywhere. And if we're in that state excessively, consistently, then it can cause us health problems that can affect the quality of our life, even long term. So, and I have some notes to try to keep me from rambling, but I may do that anyway, so please forgive me. My 5 points, and then I'll go through each one of them, inshallah, number one is to identify what it is that you fear. Identify your fear. Number 2 is to confront your fears. It doesn't mean like, if say your fear is a person, don't confront that person. I'm just talking about just in your head, just sitting down, just psychologically, emotionally, spiritually confronting whatever it is that you fear. Coming face to face in your mind with what it is that you fear that might happen, or that this person might do to you, whatever. Just confronting it. Number 2 is confronting it. Number 3 is to identify and accept things that you can and cannot change. Number 4 is to not forget taqwa. Not to forget taqwa. And then number 5 is to not fear change. So, going into number 1, again, is to identify what it is that you fear. I'm going to use, for me, for an example, one thing that causes me a lot of anxiety is driving on highways specifically. Alhamdulillah, I have never been in a car accident. Alhamdulillah, I've never even witnessed anything bad. I don't know where it came from. When I was younger, I learned to drive late when I was 19, and I was never formally taught. So I don't know if that has anything to do with this later onset of anxiety. But I've been driving since I was 19. And as I got older, perhaps like in my, I don't even remember, maybe early 30s, I just started to acquire this fear of driving on the highways. So I identify it. My fear is driving on the highway. My fear, and then when I go into number two, the fear is having a car accident, of course, you know. Um, I fear dying, you know, of course. And number three is to identify, in my example, in identifying what I can and cannot change. I was always kind of stuck there, right? So I always felt like, okay, well, I have anxiety when driving on the highway, but I would do it anyways. I would approach my confronting my fear by doing it. That's not always safe. So I would just throw myself, sometimes I didn't have a choice, throw myself on the highway, and I would just go, you know. And I would drive from Chicago to Grand Rapids, Michigan, back and forth. I would drive from Chicago to Sterling, Illinois, to Dixon, Illinois. You know, these are like 2 to 5 hour trips, you know, that I would just force myself through. And it wasn't until like recently, this going into the number three, identifying and accepting what I cannot change. My sister, we were talking, and my sister is a driver. She can drive anywhere, and she's my baby sister. She's 6 years younger than me. And she finally was like, "You're just not a good driver. You're just not a good driver." And I was like, "Oh, it's as simple as that. I'm just not a good driver." So I have to accept that I don't have to meet the standard of all other drivers that can just, which is mostly everybody, that can just jump in a car and jump on the highway and drive in the dark and go through all these bridges and stuff that is scary to me, and that's okay. So I later on have accepted something that I cannot change. I'm just not a good driver, and I'm okay with that. So where am I? Another thing that I want to is one other thing that I want to ask that one consider is when we have the symptoms of anxiety, like say you're shaking or you have insomnia, racing thoughts, you know, any and all symptoms that come with anxiety, is to consider that if you're thinking to yourself, why am I feeling like this? I'm not going through anything. You know, when you're trying to identify your fears and you're sitting down and you're saying to yourself, well, my life is okay and my relationship is fine and, you know, my job is good and, you know, where can this be coming from? Is to consider. And this is something that I think a lot of people are becoming more aware of, but it's still, we can't stress it, add pressure and tension. We can't stress it enough to each other and to remind ourselves that these anxiety-like symptoms may be coming from what we're eating. It may be coming from what we're eating. Some of us have anxiety-type symptoms from headaches when we eat things that have MSG, from things that we eat and things that we drink. So consider that. Consider that you may be experiencing just your body reacting to what you're eating, drinking. So be aware and pay attention to the ingredients in your food, to certain smells, to certain scents. Just try to think of, you know, if you're one who experiences anxiety just here and there, like think, you know, try to identify like, okay, is it when I eat something? Is it when I'm around this certain smell? If you even in environments, you know, if you're around certain people that are just negative, you know, that it is true. You may be experiencing anxiety not necessarily from something that you fear, but it may be something that you're just being exposed to and is causing anxiety-like symptoms. So be aware of what you eat and what you drink. Also be aware of what you watch and what you see. If you're a person that likes to watch scary movies all night long and it does affect you and now you're scared and you think that every new neighbor is a serial killer, or if you think that everybody wants to kidnap your children because you watch all these things, then yeah, it's from what you're watching. Everything that comes into us, whether it be physically, we're eating it through our ears, through our eyes, all that, it does register, and it does affect us. It really does. And some of those effects are physically. You can literally just watch something and it physically affects you. You can literally just hear something. You can hear people who listen to music. Why the argument of why is music haram or not is because it does physically affect you. It can affect you. You can hear a song and it can bring you down to tears. It can uplift you. It can depress you. Now, and that's just through, through audio. Same thing when it comes to what we're watching. You can watch something. You can watch a movie of actors that you know that this is not real, and it can make you cry, or it can make you happy, or it can make you depressed. So just consider that what may be causing anxiety-like symptoms may also come from what you are putting into yourself. So to try to, inshallah, to keep an environment where a truck is passing now. Try our best to keep an environment that doesn't bring anxiety-like triggers into our lives. Okay, so that's for the number one, identifying. And then now in confronting our fears, like I said, that doesn't necessarily mean